Budget 2025 to me is perhaps the most conservative liberal budget ever. And I say that because I kind of nerd out about federal budgets and I go through them and I try to understand what the government's spending on, obviously for this channel and for everything I'm doing on social. But I've noticed this almost generational shift between Justin Trudeau and Mark Carney. During Trudeau's time, he really emphasized fairness in his budgets. It was very much about, standing up for the middle class or standing up for low-income families, making sure that dental care was provided to all or to low-income families. And Trudeau was very much about like this moral imperative, like it's our duty to ensure fairness and equity. This budget is very different. It is like a conservative budget. It begins, the first few pages are on the existential threat of the global economic order that has been upended by the United States. And so very interestingly enough, it uses that as the basis to then set the tone for the entire document. And, it talks about that uncertainty. So when there's uncertainty, we need to protect and secure Canadians. And this is a very, very small c conservative way of viewing the government, right? National security is paramount for many conservatives. And so the fact that that is the theme, the general theme as you go through this budget, it's protect and secure, tells me this is very conservative, extremely conservative in some regards. So I'm just going to share with you just a couple things. I want to make sure that we're talking about these when it comes to the federal government because it's so important. And then I'm also going to talk about some things they left out, or at least I haven't been able to find as much. So we'll chat about that as well. But, Trudeau actually increased defense spending under his tenure. A lot of people don't really talk about that. But this is next level. So Trudeau had committed us to like $8 billion to to NATO, I think over like 5 years. This government it announced $7.2 billion in 25-26 alone. And now Canada will meet its 2% defense target funding to NATO. So remember, Trump said he wanted countries to spend 2% of their GDP on NATO. And Canada was one of the countries that wasn't hitting that. Trudeau, I remember at the time, said basically it would be impossible for Canada to hit 2%. Well, it's possible because Mark Carney has made it possible in this budget. So very interesting that, rebuild, rearm, reinvest. This is like very, very like strong language that the government is using. And just a personal side note, Carney and Trump's relationship, I'd like to like really study some more because to me, I look at it like Carney has given Trump a lot of what Trump has asked for, and I don't see much reciprocation, but that's a video for another day. Anyways, the focus on defense in this budget is pretty wild. Again, a marked departure from Trudeau. And again, we're meeting NATO's 2% target. Under Trudeau, this was just never going to happen. Trudeau even admitted to that. So what changed? What happened? I'm still trying to find the answer to that, but also, here's something else that's said in the budget. 1,000 new RCMP personnel. They're creating financial crimes agencies. They're making bail reform a lot more stricter. 1,000 more Canada Border Service Agency officers. I mean, when I talk about securing our borders, I've never seen a budget like this before where there's so much advance in investment in security. I also want to mention the fiscal narrative because this is also very, very important. Last year, the government promised that we would keep our deficit under 1%. This year, that deficit nearly doubles to $78 billion. But from Carney's perspective, it's investments that grow the economy. So again, there's very interesting language that Carney is using to flip the fiscal narrative position. Okay, one thing that I really wanted to mention to you is immigration. Up to this point, every budget I've read has always been about we have to be more open, we have to accept more immigrants because our economy is growing, we have to do a lot. It's about essential for Canada's growth. And I've always wondered, when are we going to have that tough conversation about temporary foreign workers and international students? Now we're having that conversation under a Liberal government. Budget 2025 says we are, quote, taking back control of immigration and putting Canada on a trajectory to bring immigration back to sustainable levels. I'm going to pause there and just get your natural reaction to that sentence. If I said that sentence and you didn't know who was speaking, who would you think that sentence came from? Would you think that came from the Liberal Party of Canada? Or would you think that was from the Conservatives or the CCP, not CCP, the CCP, or like the, some like a Pierre Poilievre, or like, you think that would come from someone on the right. That's coming from Mark Carney. Temporary foreign workers intakes will be cut nearly in half by 50%. International students, I believe, and I could be wrong, so I'm still going through this, down by over 60%. I mean, these are huge numbers to rein in our immigration. And I truly believe, and I've said this on my live, that I think this is a bit of a blip. Like, I think this will just be a temporary recall and then a massive influx by 27, 28. I think he's just reading the political winds right now. And I think it's more of a pause than like a full-on cut. But here's something I also want to leave you with. International foreign aid. So just go back 1 year, budget 2024. It looked at our leadership in global aid and climate financing, things like that. Budget 2025, $2.7 billion for international assistance is gone. It redirects these funds into a, quote, concessional trade finance envelope. So it turns it into a credit, not necessarily an aid. So basically it's trying to say like, hey, we'll put this as a finance envelope that you can draw from, but I guess the implication is you're going to pay us back. So this budget reminds me of a very like Canada first mindset by Mark Carney and the Liberals. And I'm just so surprised that he's taken such a hard right stance on so many things. Now, don't get me wrong. In the budget, there still is funding for things that, maybe the conservatives would not prioritize. I didn't mention climate change, but there still is funding there. And of course, like women and gender equality, there's a lot of funding there still too. But by and large, you take away some of the pages, you slap a blue conservative logo on it, and it reads like a conservative party platform. It really does. And so that's my takeaway from this budget. It's very much about, quote, keeping Canadians safe, but in doing so, it's making some really bold moves with our money moving forward. I haven't even mentioned the cuts to the public service. Tens of thousands of jobs will be reduced over the next few years to, in the government's perspective, align with the Canadian population. But for me, the way I look at this is it's sending a very strong signal to the bureaucracy that the government does not want more bureaucrats. That is very conservative, small c conservative. This government's ushering it in. So I'd love to know what you think. Leave a comment below. Let me know what you think. And folks, before I let you go, let me just let you know about this, the Clarity Method. It's in my description. Click the link. It is my first digital product. It is pay what you want. Tell me what you think about it. It's about making sense of the most messiest topics in the world right now. I'd love to know what you think about that. So leave a comment below. Let me know what you think. And I'll definitely catch you in the next one. More on the budget and how it relates back to everyday Canadians. Thanks so much for watching. I'll catch you in the next one. Take care.